Toka Jr. is new Motu Koitabu chairman. MPs call for stop work this Thursday and Friday. And 18 months without power and proper sewage.
This is the National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Monday's news. At 5:30 this morning, the main gates into the police Red Sea barracks at Bomana were shut as the 150 police officers and their families gathered inside. The closure of the gates was a sign of grievance. The officers have been living at the barracks for 18 months without electricity supply and a proper storage system.
For 1.5 years, the 150 police officers who moved into the barracks with their families have been without power supply. While some have installed solar lights, others are using flashlights, candles or fires to cook at night. While the lack of electricity may be a concern, the continuous leakage of raw sewage is a health risk, especially in a barrack settings where children openly play on the streets. But 18 months have passed and nothing has been done to connect electricity to the new houses. This morning, the main gates into the barracks were shut for at least 3 hours. Children and wives of police officers gathered inside, waiting for those in authority to show up and listen to their grievances. The Red Sea Barracks was constructed in 2014 under the Police Modernization Program at a cost of 49 million kina. In 2016, the houses were complete but left vacant due to outstanding payments by the national government for almost 2 years. Because of this, electricity supply was not connected and most houses were occupied without white goods. This morning, Commander of NCD and Central Divisional Command, Donald Yamasombi, met with the officers and their families and explained that the houses were not certified when the officers moved in. However, Yamasombi said police officers needed to report for duties and the matter will be reported to the police administration team. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Anglim South Wagi MP Rumanjo Kuli on Friday presented the 5-year development plan for his electorate to the Department of Implementation and Rural Development. Kuli said a thorough research was carried out in each village to identify its needs and issues before compiling the plan. He also gave tithes to all the churches in his electorate.
The 5-year development plan for Anglim South Wagi electorate incorporates the Millennium Term Development Plan, the National Government's Development Strategic Plan and Juwaka Provincial Government's 5-year development plan. All the key sectors of education, health, roads and infrastructure, law and order are included in the 5-year development plan of 2017 to 2022.
Last long year, bridge walking. You by that, but future generation come benefit all by kissing Vietnam, lifetime all by kissing. Time roading you go good now, quality is stop. You travel on top. You by that, but long-term savings best stop. School is stop, housing is stop. All this is something. Lifetime by service na stop.
Anglim South Wagi MP Joe Kuli says all clinics will be upgraded to health centers and each community should have at least a nearest clinic to go to. There are plans to upgrade schools under the District Education Improvement Program. Juwaka Provincial Government was the first to present its 5-year development plan to the Department of Implementation and Rural Development.
Last time we go sit down one them, Commissioner Blong Police. Na MSY me or sem putting money inside long budget long and long fund them police barracks blow you me. So stop it. CIS me go send down one them commissioner blow CIS na MSY you me long plain long and long how on by building mouse clubs blow you me. So stop inside long budget blow.
At the presentation of the development plan on Friday, Kuli gave tithes totaling to 800,000 kina to all the churches in his electorate. Kuli said the tithe was from the District Development Authority as their turn-up offering. This was also to fulfill his campaign policy to support churches and appreciate their effort in developing the country.
Church staff not strong in government staff. Suppose church even staff. Law and order problem in Bako Bigla. Misa Lumas woman Trimbian Nagam. Time Pastor Ikam all speak all Leiden, but also pray to Pastor Ikam.
Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
To our top story today, newly elected chairman of the Motu Koita Assembly, Toka Jr., says he plans to work with the 16 newly elected members of the Assembly to help them deliver their policy platforms. He was declared chairman today at the Sir John Guy's Indoor Complex. Mr. Toka polled 6,214 at the 7th exclusion. His runner-up was the only female candidate for chairperson, Beatrice Mahuru, who polled 2,974 votes, and Miria Ikupu Naime was third runner-up with 2,458 votes.
Family, friends, supporters and people of Motu Koita packed the Sir John Guy's Indoor Complex today to witness the official declaration of the new chairman, Daddy Toka Jr. Mr. Toka thanked the people of Motu Koita for trusting him to lead the assembly for the next 5 years. He said his first order of business was to set up an office for the assembly and review the administration by making sure the right people were at the right positions. He pledged to work closely with the newly elected members to deliver for the people of Motu Koita.
My part here is to work with them. It's very important that I work with the 16 new members to ensure that we deliver what the people of Motu Koita need. And it's very important, and I've actually started the discussion with a number of them, and it's very important that I started, because during my campaign I always said we want to hit the ground running. I have no time. We are already behind the clock. Motu Koita Assembly doesn't have an office. That's going to be a priority, and also with the staffing and administration. I know there's been a lot of talk about transparency, about good governance. Those are the things I'm going to put into the Motu Koita Assembly moving forward.
There were 4 seats for this election: the women representative for Motu Koita East and West respectively, the ward councillor and the Motu Koita chairperson. A total of 3,116 people voted in this election throughout the 14 electorates of Motu Koita. The Papua New Guinea Electoral Commission returning officer, Terence Hetinu, said before the election began there was an electoral update with the use of local enrollment agents.
To ensure that eligible voters were enrolled and given the opportunity to vote. At the close of the enrollment exercise in July, a total of 18,379 voters from Motu Koita were registered. From that, a further reduction was done after non-Motu Koitabuans as well as those who have been deceased were removed from the roll, and we were left with 12,933. Awareness teams were also deployed into communities of the Motu Koita electorate to inform and educate the people on the requirements and aspects of the elections.
125 candidates were nominated to contest in the 2018 Motu Koita Assembly election, with one who passed on before polling began. Of the 125, 16 candidates were elected as members of the Assembly. Mr. Toka's declaration ends the 2018 Motu Koita Assembly election. Charlene Eri, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. We go for a first break now, but stay tuned for more of today's other stories when we come back. Welcome back. More than 400 nurses will attend the 19th South Pacific Nurses Forum 2018 hosted by the Cook Island Nurses Association that opens today. The theme for the conference is Transforming Leadership, Nurses as Change Agents for Non-Communicable Diseases in the Pacific, encouraging nurses to take the lead in partnership with other health professionals in redesigning and advancing healthcare to address the non-communicable diseases. Clinical nurses, nurse managers, nurse educators and nurse leaders from across the South Pacific will attend the forum to discuss and debate key issues of importance to nurses and nursing. The main objectives are to promote and improve the coverage and quality of health services for the public, ensure the establishment and maintenance of professional nursing practices, establishing networking with nurses in the South Pacific, and demonstrate the nursing contribution to the health of families and communities. The Vision City Mega Mall Trade Expo is still attracting customers to stalls since the start of the show last Wednesday. Today, not only did EMTV speak to stall owners at the expo, but also to shops owned by PNG nationals selling PNG handmade fashion outfits as well as traditional jewellery.
A number of items displayed at this year's Vision City Trade Expo did not only attract locals since the start of the show last week, but tourists as well. From electronics to the latest gadgets to health tips and information to history, general knowledge, and not to mention food. Today it was a different story at Vision City Mega Mall. Shops like the fresh juice shop that provided cold drinks and hot food to the pizza shop, and one that attracted young and old, the gelato shop, was busy with customers looking to cool down. A shop that's only joined this year to be part of the Vision City Trade Expo also attracted shopgoers with their display of food and social items.
This is our first time to join the Expo. So we will continue to join the Trade Expo. We are inviting you all to visit our booth here at Vision City until the 20th of October. Thank you so much.
Not only did EMTV speak to stalls that were part of the expo, but also to local business owners who are renting certain spots in the mall to sell their items. This includes the popular Mary blouse to footwear and handmade jewelry.
Sales good, plus like money good. So I'm sold me story. I was a blouse and 100 kina disla. Na suwe mo disla stape mlo. Australia boss married lo miss exam na miss maget leya.
Stall owners at the expo say not only is the expo good for business, but it has also helped to expose their products and services. The Vision City Trade Expo will end this Saturday. Godwin Eki, National EMTV News.
You're with Monday's News. We'll be back with more stories after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, Saudi Arabia is vowing to use its oil market muscle as a weapon in a deepening rift with the West over the disappearance of a Saudi journalist. The threat comes after the U.S. promised to punish its longtime ally if investigators find it killed Jamal Khashoggi in Turkey 2 weeks ago.
President Trump threatening action if it's proved the Saudi kingdom is involved in the disappearance of Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi, telling 60 Minutes.
There's something really terrible and disgusting about that if that were the case. So we're going to have to see. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and there will be severe punishment.
The Saudi government repeatedly denying any involvement, but now escalating the war of words in a statement saying if it receives any action, it will respond with greater action. Issuing this veiled threat, the kingdom's economy has an influential and vital role in the global economy, a clear reference to Saudi oil and its power to control prices. Khashoggi is feared dead, last seen walking into the Saudi consulate October 2nd. This mystery deepening when Turkish officials alleged a squad of Saudis landed in Turkey the day the reporter vanished, checking into this hotel.
The 15 Saudis then mysteriously left the hotel, having only just checked in, got into a van and headed a few hundred yards down the road to the Saudi consulate. The team then parked up at the back of the consulate, allegedly lying in wait for Jamal Khashoggi, who went through the front door a few hours later and never emerged.
The national intelligence analyst for the pro-Turkish Daily Sabah newspaper telling me his sources are convinced Khashoggi was murdered, and they have a tape that proves it.
And there's no doubt in their mind?
There is no doubt, actually.
He was killed?
Yes, he was killed, they say, and the main question is where the body is, you know.
Can I ask you what happened to Jamal Khashoggi, sir?
Outside the consulate today, everyone remained tight-lipped.
Wild weather in the Antarctica has forced the longest delay in 40 years for New Zealand scientists journeying into the icy continent. The start of the science season's already 2 weeks behind, a major setback for the Kiwi and American crew.
The whiteout, winds lashing snow and sleet into a dangerous and icy storm, closing the McMurdo Sound airfields and leaving planes grounded on the Christchurch tarmac.
A 2-week delay out of a 22-week season is quite a big impact just in that, opening and operational setup for both ourselves and the United States Antarctic Program.
But a recent respite from the storm has seen staff seize the opportunity to prepare for takeoff.
So between 250 to 300 sets.
And with 350 Kiwis heading to Antarctica over summer, there's a backlog, with many still to kit out for the unique conditions.
So Jenny's going to be coming in tomorrow to collect her kit, so she's a returning scientist. Inside it's like a big sleeping bag. So pretty cool, very, very warm. Wearing that with all the correct layers underneath, you should be semi-comfortable down to -50, you should survive.
Officials hope 2 flights will leave in the morning, with a further 5 flights taking off by Friday. These US Air Force planes will be the first to leave tomorrow, with around 20 Kiwis on board. But they won't be scientists. Instead, logistics staff will be sent first to prepare for the season ahead.
Mechanics to our Antarctic field training team, our domestic staff, our chefs and other supporting staff for the program. So those folks that will be nurturing and looking after Scott Base are the first in.
Weather permitting, scientists will be in the air in 2 weeks before hitting the ice, where their work can finally begin.
The Royal Tour Down Under has officially begun after landing in Sydney. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex spent the day resting ahead of a packed Pacific schedule, but hundreds of royal revellers had to wait a little longer in the rain for a glimpse of Britain's glamour couple after a surprise delay.
A low-key arrival for Australia's most high-profile guests.
Welcome to Australia!
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex arriving in Sydney looking refreshed despite their 23-hour journey. And even though the weather wasn't exactly playing ball for a warm welcome, a little rain wasn't about to put off these royal watchers.
Well, I think it was a lot of joy and excitement because a lot of young people around. And the guys saying, I'm not interested, but my wife or my girlfriend loves Meghan.
Prince Harry's visited Australia as recently as last year, but this is his wife's first trip. Cameras stationed to capture every moment of their arrival on live TV.
The royals have just touched down in Sydney. Big round of applause, everyone.
Only they hadn't touched down. The couple surprising everyone by opting for a later flight on Australia's national carrier.
They look great. They obviously had a good flight over. Sitting up the pointy end of the plane obviously is a good way to travel.
When we were waiting in line for the customs, we saw them walk by and I waved, but I don't think they saw me.
After a brief thumbs up, they were whisked away on cleared roads to Admiralty House, the residence of the Governor-General.
We didn't see them for very long, so that was a bummer.
It's basically a day of relaxing and re-energising for the royal couple here at Admiralty House in Sydney today, and they'll need it with a full-on schedule of official engagements over the next 16 days. Highlights of the Australian leg of their tour include time in Sydney for the Invictus Games, a trip to drought-hit Dubbo in rural New South Wales, a stint in Melbourne and a visit to Queensland's picturesque Fraser Island. For now, though, it's feet up in one of Sydney's more luxurious accommodations before the frenzy gets into full swing tomorrow.
US President Donald Trump is proposing to resume separating refugee and migrant families at the US border. The move comes after a new video which has been released of a new detention center in Texas by the administration, which has 2,000 children.
Just weeks ahead of the midterms, President Trump putting a spotlight on immigration. This amid a report his administration is considering a new take on family separation at the border.
We have the dumbest immigration laws in the world. The world laughs at us, but we're getting them changed.
While the president says family separation could deter illegal immigration,
if they feel there will be separation, they don't come. You know, if they feel there's separation, it's It's a terrible situation.
He cited no evidence and gave no proof that undocumented immigrants are bringing children into the country to bypass immigration laws.
Everybody wants to come in, and they come in illegally, and they use children. In many cases, the children aren't theirs. They grab them, and they want to come in with the children.
According to the Washington Post, the president is considering a plan that gives parents who cross the border illegally two choices: stay in detention for months or even years with their children as they await immigration proceedings, or allow children to wait in government facilities until relatives are located. Even the First Lady weighing in, telling our Tom Yamas that she was blindsided by the child separation policy and she's against it. The crackdown on illegal immigration ended in June because of legal setbacks, but many children remain in detention. U.S. officials say more than 200 are not eligible for reunification or release. The Department of Health and Human Services out with a new video from inside a Texas detention center where 2,400 children are housed. Here, they're seen playing, eating together, and bunking in tight quarters.
Brexit leaders are in Brussels hoping to strike a deal with EU this week and resolve any last outstanding issues in time for Thursday's summit. Prime Minister Theresa May is facing more pressure from the British government, with the former Brexit secretary calling for a cabinet rebellion over a temporary arrangement.
It's crunch time for Brexit talks and Theresa May's leadership. For more than 18 months, she's persuaded, cajoled and argued with EU leaders. The last get-together in Austria, though, ended with angry recriminations. Back home, it's no easier, with some cabinet ministers threatening to quit over her plans. Loyal colleagues say it's time for unity.
Everybody needs to get behind the Prime Minister and pull behind her because she is trying to deliver the best deal for Britain, and that's the best way to take this forward.
But the former Brexit Secretary David Davis says the cabinet must exert its authority and get Mrs May to change direction. The disagreement is over the so-called Irish backstop, how to avoid border checks between Northern Ireland and Ireland if a suitable trade arrangement isn't in place. Theresa May is suggesting the UK stays in the EU's customs union. Conservative Brexiteers insist that arrangement has to be clearly time-limited.
I do say to anyone who's in Cabinet who has concerns about this, you have to make them very clear to the Prime Minister. And we mustn't have a little cabal outside the Cabinet running this. It has to be a Cabinet decision.
The Labour leadership is scathing about Mrs May's plans.
Frankly, if she comes back with something which is just a fudge that she's cooked up with Brussels and it doesn't meet our test, we're not going to vote for it. And, you know, and the British people are not stupid. We're not stupid. We're not voting for something which is essentially a bridge to nowhere. We need to know what our future relationship with Europe is going to be, and a fudge won't fix it.
But ministers are still working towards a deal. This afternoon, the Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab made a flying visit to Brussels for another face-to-face meeting with the EU's chief negotiator.
You're watching National EMTV News. Toka Sports is next. We'll be back shortly.
Toka Sports.
Welcome to Toka Sports. 3 players from the PNG Residents Under-23 team have been added to the Kumul side to take on the England Knights. These 3 players will join the 17-member team tomorrow when camp begins.
5'8" Edwin Ipape, centre Stanford Teleta and hooker Woods Kawage are the 3 players that will be joining the Kumul's camp. They were named as shadow players in last week's Kumul's team announcement.
3 or 4 of those boys who are coming to the side. We can't release their names today because they're playing an important game on Sunday, so we don't want to distract the preparations, that sort of thing. So.
The 3 players were outstanding during the match against the New South Wales Under-23 country team yesterday. Kumul's coach Michael Marum says these players will be brought in to be part of the team building up to the 2021 Rugby League World Cup.
Preparations towards World Cup 2021, so while we have some new players, old players there, we also looking at which players we bring in for our future. So, and that's why we bring in another 3 players from the Under-23's game.
The team gathers into camp tomorrow to start preparations for the first match of the two-game series against the England Knights on the 27th of October in Lae. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
Former NRL referee Shane Hayne was in the country last week running referee courses with local refs. Hayne says there was a good turnout of referees who attended and that he was impressed by how the local referees officiated with the matches played yesterday.
After seeing the 3 games today with Mackenzie, Aaron and Paul, the way they officiated, I think the officiating in PNG is in a very good space. I thought Paul done an exceptional job in the main game. You know, he knows a lot of the stuff that we do back home, which was pleasing to know. Very proud of what they've done, and you know, very high standard for the level of football and the lack of coaching that they probably get on a regular basis. So if we can tap into that and you know, have regular visits and come over and help with that, I think in time PNG will have referees and or touch judges for that matter in the Queensland Cup or whichever competition the Hunters play in.
You're watching Toka Sports. We'll continue with more after these messages. Stay tuned.
Toka Sports.
Welcome back to Toka Sports. There are 51 names in the latest All Black squad to head to Japan and Europe this month, but the one that stood out for most is young Auckland forward Dalton Papali'i. He'll join the main party of 32 players, while 19 more have been added for the latest test against Japan.
Just days after his 21st birthday, a call-up to the All Blacks would have to rate as the best present yet for Dalton Papali'i.
I saw none of it coming. I saw social media, a few talks here and there, but nothing from anyone official, yeah.
But while it might be a surprise to him, he's clearly done enough to impress the boss.
Yeah, he plays hard, you know, he's quite skilled, good athlete, you know, very good over the ball. Whilst I don't think he's a natural 7, I think you know, he's definitely got a lot of good qualities.
He's a physical man. He loves to get around the track and impart himself that way.
Papali'i's currently topping the tackle count in this year's Mitre 10 Cup, and his ability to play both 6 and 7 will help boost the loose forward stocks after injuries to Sam Cane and Shannon Frizzell.
His form at the moment is very, very good. You know, he's a big man. He was a star in the under-20s not so long ago, mainly at 6, but he's played a lot of 7 this year.
I've been playing consistently every week, you know, try not to miss tackles and just trying to do my job to the best of my ability.
14-test flanker Matt Todd is currently playing in Japan, but has been given dispensation by NZ Rugby to come to the rescue, which should help take the pressure off the new recruit.
The likelihood of him having to play, you know, the big test matches is not that high. But if he does need to, then you know, he's also got the added string of being able to play 6.
Other newcomers, Canterbury first 5 Brett Cameron and winger George Bridge, both still reeling from their call-up.
Bit of a surprise actually, so yeah, pretty stoked. No, not at all, so it certainly came as a big surprise.
These next tests a chance for the new blood to prove they deserve to stay in the black jersey.
The Tongan Rugby League team has relocated to Auckland ahead of Saturday's groundbreaking test match against Australia.
Kangaroo forward Andrew Fafita can't wait to play against his former side for the first time after switching allegiance to Tonga for last year's World Cup.
I'm blessed. I'm very grateful that I come from 2 nationalities, and look, I've proved myself in the Aussie jersey before. I've won a World Cup with Australia, and if I look back at my childhood, I have to give something back to my father.
And while the 2-hour training session was off limits for fans today, one of their biggest supporters, the King of Tonga, is flying into Auckland later this week. And it was back to work for the revitalised Kiwis before they leave for England, hoping to take their form into the first test in 2 weeks.
I'll actually be able to get to know a bit more about the boys. We only had 3 sessions this week, or last week I should say. So we'll be able to do a little bit more on the field, and we're stopping off in Dubai for a couple of days training there, and then we'll make our way to Manchester.
The Kiwis will play the first of their 3 tests in Hull, where Michael Maguire enjoyed plenty of success as coach of Super League side Wigan.
The Ranfurly Shield has a new home, and there's a rugby player in Britain who might need one after his Champions Cup howler. Here's last week's sporting moments.
Just when Waikato were prepping the Ranfurly Shield summer tour, Otago snapped it off them. Victory all the more sweeter for Otago's Jonah Nareki, although sore after he busted his testicle. Move over Buck Shelford. The prizes were also being dished out in New Plymouth.
Everyone's getting a loaf of bread. You get bread, you get bread, everybody gets a loaf of bread.
But there were plenty of reasons not to celebrate. After missing a kick to win the game, Freddie Burns looked to have redeemed himself until...
The try, has he?
Leinster flanker Rhys Ruddock didn't miss referee Roman Poit.
That is mightily painful.
It's a no-arm tackle as well.
And there were plenty of tumbles at the Tamworth Sevens and Aussie as well. Don't rush to help, lads. At least this kid knew what was coming at the Shanghai Masters. And Steph Curry was shocking people on court for different reasons. Formula One driver Daniel Ricciardo was hot from halfway too. But it was the young guns who were showing off in the Mount Smart triple header.
Oh, get out of here, I'm hearing you. You don't even get that right at training.
Their seniors the happiest of all this week though. The key is in the we.
That story ends Toka Sports for tonight. Up next, the weather details. Stay tuned.
Toka Sports. Toka Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, fine, although cloudy in Port Moresby. Fine weather in Daru, cloudy with showers in Kerma and Alotau, and cloudy with some rain in Popondetta. In the Mamasa region, cloudy showers in Lae, mostly fine in Madang, cloudy with showers in Wewak, and rain and clouds in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, fine weather in Lorengau, fine although cloudy in Kavieng, fine and sunny in Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, and fine although cloudy in Buka. And in the Highlands region, fog and rain drizzles right across the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg. Renewal strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz Straits and Dampier Straits to CSE Island to Long Island to West New Britain. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerma, Tuyul Island and Hood Point to Samari Island, with waters of eastern and western Milne Islands, with waters of Samari Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, with waters of Long Island to Madang to Bogia to Wewak to Aitape, Vanimo, northern PNG Indonesian border, including waters of New Ireland to East New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits to CSE Islands to Long Island, seas of 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 meters. And waters of West New Britain, 1.5 to 2 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea. Seas moderate with east-southeast winds at 15 to 20 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas slight to moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slight to moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
Before we go, in a story that has continued to build over the past few days around the purchasing of 40 Italian sports cars for APEC Leaders Week, 3 outspoken MPs have banded together calling for a nationwide strike this Thursday and Friday to protest what they say is the lack of transparency and alleged corruption in government. Madang MP Brian Kramer, or Governor Gary Juffa and ECPIC's Alan Bird made the call late yesterday. 2 of the MPs spoke to EMTV News today.
Late last night, Madang MP Brian Kramer released a statement calling for a nationwide strike. Accompanying the post was a picture of Kramer himself, the Oro Governor Gary Juffa and the East CPIC Governor Alan Bird.
Raised by parents because we have exam week. And there's some 28,000 grade 12 students that will carry out exams this week. And the concern is that we've asked from the Thursday and Friday exams start today for a week. So exams, this is a nationwide boycott of all workers to boycott work throughout Papua New Guinea.
It's a stay-at-home protest. Again, very different. They can't arrest you if you're protesting in your own home. We do understand that there's people who are now working on, some of our very hard-working medical people doing the polio vaccinations. We understand that's still going on.
This morning we spoke to Kramer and Governor Bird about the joint announcement.
Now, I've since obtained a copy of an invoice. This is the invoice of these vehicles purchased by the government. They've been issuing misleading statements, both the APEC minister and also the CEO and even the Prime Minister, where they said that these vehicles have already been purchased at no cost to Papua New Guinea. These were purchased. This invoice is made out to the CEO, Christopher Hawkins. It wasn't made out to a private company. It was made out to him. It's for 40 Maseratis at a total cost of $6.3 million US.
What's triggered this call for action is the purchase of 40 Maserati sports vehicles costing about $1 million kina each. While it was a government decision, there's still no clear explanation as to who it was that paid for the vehicles. Both the Prime Minister and the APEC Minister, Justin Chachenko, have given varying statements. The main thread of the story is that the money didn't come from government pockets and that it came from the private sector. From which member of the private sector is not clear. Madang MP Brian Kramer has made several posts on social media highlighting where he believes the vehicles came from and how they were paid for. The main issue of concern is the transparency of the transaction and the manner in which attempts were made to suppress information about the vehicles. Those who took pictures of the vehicles were also threatened with prosecution. Entrepreneur and nephew of an author of the PNG Constitution, Emmanuel Narakobi, was also told to take down the pictures he posted on Facebook or, quote, APEC security laws would be enacted.
And one of them, enshrined in the Constitution, is your right to free speech. I fail to see what the security issues are with 40 Maserati landing in Papua New Guinea. That should be a very transparent transaction.
As the media outside the country continue to decry the purchase of the Maseratis, debate has also shifted to when and how the decision to go for a sports car with a V6 Ferrari engine rather than other cheaper options available in country are questions the opposition is pushing. And while the world continues to hear of these 40 Maseratis held up against our weak health sector and education pay dilemmas, there are 40 Italian supercars in Port Moresby and they will be used in APEC. Scott Wade, National EMTV News, Ley.
And that ends the news, sport and weather for today, Monday, the 15th of October 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.